welcome to Math Maintenance. In our Math Maintenance class, we will be reviewing concepts that you should have had some exposure to along the way in math class, whether it be this last year or years previous to this last year. Our goal in Math Maintenance is to help you maintain your skills throughout the summer so that when we come back together in fall and we are ready to learn, you are ready to jump right back into your math learning. Now, if there's something that comes up that you feel like, ooh, that looks a little new, or this feels kind of unfamiliar, give it your best shot. You might just be getting a little preview of something else that's going to come up in your math schooling soon. Today and every day in Math Maintenance, what you will have is a video lesson like this that will introduce you to the concept or review a concept with you that you should have learned before. Once that lesson is done, you then always have a worksheet activity from the packet that you've been provided by the school, a manipulative activity, so something to do with physical items that were sent to the school. They might be flashcards or number cards or popsicle sticks or some kind of manipulative item to do something with, and then also a digital activity, which might be something on a Google Drawing, something on Google Slides, or a website to visit or a digital game to play. I really encourage you to try to practice in all three ways. So do the activity in your packet, the digital activity, and the manipulative activity, because our brains work in different ways. And so by working with materials in different ways, we're helping ourselves remember and practicing in new ways that will make it more likely that we remember. All right, enough about the course. Let's dive into our first topic. Our first topic today is factoring. And what we're talking about when we're talking about factoring is what sets of numbers can we use to make another number. So for example, factors of 4 are 1 and 4, because 1 times 4 equals 4, and 2, because 2 times 2 equals 4. When we're talking about factoring, we're always talking about multiplication. So what numbers can we multiply together in order to get the number that we're looking at? Let's start with our first example over here, the number 12. The first thing that I can tell you about factoring is that 1 is always a factor of a number. All numbers are divisible by 1. When we divide 12 by 1, we get 12. Every number also has itself as one of the factors. I'm making factor pairs in my t-chart, and I can check by saying 1 times 12 equals 12. Now, since 12 is an even number, I also know that 2 is one of its factors. Now I need to think about 2 times what equals 12? Well, 2 times 6 equals 12. 2 and 6 are factors of 12 because 2 times 6 equals 12. You may have called these fact families in school or factor pairs in order to make a number. You may have used different vocabulary for it, but it's the idea that multiplying two numbers together get us to a bigger number. There's one more set of factors for 12. Can you think of two numbers that when multiplied together get us to 12? If you're thinking of 3 and its factor pair 4, you are correct. 3 times 4 equals 12, so 3 and 4 are factors of 12. We can say that 12 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 factors. Some numbers will have lots and lots and lots of factors, and some numbers will have not so many. Even numbers always have 2 as a factor. Odd numbers don't have to have anything as a factor. So odd numbers will always have 1 in itself, but then there's no special rule for odd numbers that it has to have a certain number, whereas even always is also divisible by 2. Let's practice with another even number on this end, 16. We talked about that 1 is always a factor of a number and its pair is always the number. So 1 and 16. 16 is an even number, so we said that even numbers always have 2 as a factor, and 2 times 8 equals 16. As I continue to move up over here, I get to 3. I can't think of anything. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 6 is 18. So there's not another whole number that when multiplied by 3 gets me to 16. I can say that 4 times 4 equals 16. 5 doesn't go into 16. 6 doesn't go into 16. 7 doesn't go into 16. 8 goes into 16 2 times. So now that I know that I'm up into other numbers that I've already checked, I can be done checking my factors. One more even number to practice, and then we'll try an odd one. 24. We talked about how 1 and the number are always factors of themselves. So 1 times 24 equals 24. 24 is an even number, so I do 2, and its factor pair is 12. 2 times 12 equals 24. In thinking about 3, since I know my multiplication facts fast, I know that 3 times 8 also gets me to 24. When I get to 4, I know that 4 times 6 also gets me to 24. 5 times 5 is 25, and 5 times 4 is 20. So 5 doesn't work. And the next number I would check was 6, but 6 is already up here as one of the factor numbers. So as soon as I start looping around to the other side and coming back up, just like I did over here, I started going back up, I was up to 8. I know that I'm done finding factors. We're going to check an odd number quick. Remember I said for odd numbers, there's no set rules on how or what needs to be a factor. So we know 1 and the number are going to be a factor. 2 isn't going to be a factor, because if 2 was a factor, then it would be an even number. And then I just kind of have to start checking. So 3 times 11 gets me to 33. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 4 is 32. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 3 is 27. So I'm on either side. 10 times 3 is 30. And then the next number I would check is 11. So as soon as I start looping back around, I know that I'm done. When factoring problems, you can use that method of moving down your numbers and then seeing when you start looping back around. All right, so here's your work for today. In your packet, you have 2 pages for factor practice. The first one is T-charts, just like we did on the board. The second one is gumballs, where you're going to color in whether the number is a factor of the number in the gumball machine. So you're going to look, for example, and if 2 is a factor of 50, I'll give you a hint, 50 is even, so we know 2 is a factor, you would color in the 2. I would work through them in pairs, so if you color in the 2, look for the thing that would be the factor pair to that and color in that one right away as well. Your digital practice for today is an activity on a website that's Factor Trees. Factor Trees are going to break it down so that you start breaking down the factors. So 24 will break down into 2 and 12, and then it'll ask, do either of these numbers have factors? 2 doesn't, but 12 can break down more into 2 and 6. Does 6 have other factors? 6 can break down into 2 and 3. We'll use factor trees in an upcoming lesson, and so the digital activity today is a good practice to get you warmed up for that. The manipulative activity today would be to cut out your number cards for 1 through 120. So all the cards in that deck, you're going to want to keep those together. So maybe put them in a little bag or put a paper clip around them. Today you can practice pulling out any number in that deck and then seeing how many factors it has. What can you factor it? How many factors would you put in your T-chart? Best of luck with all that factoring practice, and happy math maintaining.